Any unsupported bends that you find in your life and begin thinking how you might alter the habits so that they're not so stressful on your lower back. This is where a partner can be very useful in helping to identify your bending. Now that was the first irritating movement. The second movement is arching the low back in a standing position from an exercise that looks like this. There's a small percentage of the population with back pain for whom that is a good exercise. It's specifically prescribed by a professional who's seen your x-rays and who knows for a fact that it's for you. Now, a less obvious way that arching of the back can sneak up on a person is seen in sexuality. Many people find that lovemaking can irritate their back. This is often because of arching that occurs with pelvic motion. So the following rules are useful. The person with a weak back should either stay on bottom if it's comfortable, with a pillow under the knees, or on his or her side in a spoon position. 2, limit the range of pelvic motion, particularly arching, and limit the sharpness of the pelvic motion, thinking of the activity as more of a fluid dance. Now, so far we've covered 1, unsupported bending, 2, arching, 3 is a side bend, and it looks like this. Side bends pull the whole weight of the trunk to the side and balance it on a small area of the low back that's not really designed to support that weight. So if you're someone that's doing that exercise, and if you have a weak low back, eliminate it now. A real good alternative of lengthening and stretching the side and the rib cage is simply to raise both your hands above the head and just lift up through the rib cage like you're lifting straight up from one side. And then you get a nice, long, elegant stretch in here without doing any damage. Now, the fourth damaging movement is twisting the low back. All too often when we irritate our low back, it's because we're in a hurry. And again, we forget to keep the task at hand in front of our bodies. Now, here's a good example of how twisting can aggravate your low back. Ever been sitting in your car and try to get something out of the back seat? You bend around something like this. Then there's getting out of the car. Try turning the body and then standing. Then reverse for getting into the car. First sit, then turn. Some people sit at a desk and they have their file cabinets or bookcase positioned behind them. So instead of swirling that chair around, facing the task, they do it something like this, where they reach to get something from the bookcase or file cabinet. All they really need to do is turn and face the task squarely. When sleeping, a small pillow between the knees helps to eliminate twisting if you sleep on your side. This is an important relief for those of you who have trouble finding a comfortable position at night. And now 5, which is the most damaging of all, is bending and twisting at the same time. This is the one that causes most lifting injuries. We find bending and twisting injuries most often when we pick something up and move it somewhere. We get into trouble when we're in a hurry because we bend and twist like this. Now, if you can slow yourself down just a beat and break the movement up, you can protect yourself. First, he has to bend, then he has to turn and move it to wherever it's going, and finally, the unload. See if that doesn't help you a lot. Separate the movements. First the lifting, then the turning, and then, of course, finally, the release. This can provide tremendous relief for you. Now, let's look at some of the little insidious ways that bending and twisting occur in our life.
Many people rinse and load the dishwasher like this, which involves bending and twisting. Instead, try stacking all of the dishes on top of the dishwasher. And then bend your knees, support your weight, keep your back flat, and load directly in front of you. The same technique can be used when transferring clothes from the washing machine to the dryer.
So you see, in many day-to-day situations like this, some creative use of these 5 movement principles can really help you to protect yourself from ongoing back irritation. Your homework is to start looking at the daily movements and see where you can start applying these protective principles in your life. And partners, it's up to you to help spot some of those patterns and help work out some creative solutions like this. Remember to slow down a little bit so that you can notice how you're using your body. And don't be afraid to make the changes that might be necessary. It may be something like changing your workstation, or perhaps asking your children to climb on your lap instead of you always leaning down to lift them. The most important way to relieve back pain is not to do those persistent, irritating movements that cause that pain. So work with it, and don't get discouraged if you find you're guilty of these movements all over the place in your life. The more movements that you find you've been doing incorrectly, the more hope you have of back pain relief. Now, there are a variety of back care supports that can be useful tools for you as well. For those of you finding it difficult to drive or sit at your desk, there are several types of back supports that slip into the seat. These can sometimes double as a portable support to be used at the desk. If you work at a computer or a design table, this next support is for you. No matter how good your chair is, if you need to sit up to your work, you have no support. This is a simple sling that fits like so and allows you to sit forward up to your work with full support of your lower back. This position also supports the alignment of the upper back, shoulders, and neck in a less stressful position. This can also be used in a canoe, stadium, or anywhere else that you have no backrest. So ask your doctor if any supports like these might be useful for you. Now let's move on to part 2 of our program.
I'm Dr. Brad DeLong. I've been a neurosurgeon for over 30 years, concentrating on the treatment of spinal problems. I've had the privilege of working with many orthopedists, chiropractors, and physical therapists in the treatment of back pain. Each approach to back care has its own value, and I've always encouraged my patients to stay open in their exploration of the various options available, but I've urged them to include in whatever treatment program they choose a home-based exercise program. Scientific research has repeatedly shown that often exercise alone is all that's required to eliminate back pain if you do it regularly. It can work even when there are permanent changes in spinal anatomy. You can live comfortably with many forms of spinal pathology if you restore strength and flexibility to your deconditioned spine with an exercise program. As you regain spinal motion and stability, in many cases the pain simply disappears.
The exercises in this program are taken from a wide variety of disciplines, and they're given in the order of difficulty. So at any point during the program, if you start to feel some fatigue or tiredness, or if anything bothers you, feel free to skip that exercise and join us for the stretching. Dr. DeLong is going to give us some of the exercises in a modified form, and you can feel free to try those out as well. If you have any questions about the wisdom with which you should approach an exercise program like this, feel free to check with your own doctor first. Let's begin with opening up the motion in our neck, shoulders, upper back, and chest.
Start with your feet about shoulder width apart and knees slightly bent. Take a breath in as you reach overhead. Exhale as you lower your arms. Again, inhaling up, exhaling down. One more time, inhaling up, exhaling down. Now this time as you inhale up, keep your arms there and reach overhead with alternating sides, enjoying the stretch. Keep your breath even. Good. Now reaching in front of you, turn your arms as if you're turning a doorknob on alternating sides, opening up the motion of the shoulders and the upper back. Keep going. Enjoy the stretch. Good. Next, roll your shoulders back 8 times, slowly and gently. Think of exploring the movement. Notice how it feels. And now reverse. Good. Taking your time.